Los Nachos Amigos, and welcome to Record Breakers, a music podcast where we're a group of friends gathered together to share music with each other, an album at a time, things that caught their attention, things that they're interested in, things they just want to foist upon each other, whatever it may be. And then we sit down and we talk about it. It's like a little book club for music. I'm Petey Rave, your man with no plan. Here with me is my team, my squad, my crew. We've got Brett.
I'm here, and I brought my friend Joe Camel and his friends in the hard pack.
Yes. We've got Drew.
Hi.
Yes. And we've got David.
I promised Petey I'd be less weird on this episode.
Yes.
Branded in Canada.
For fucking luck.
We love weird here. We're here to talk about music, of course, and we're going to be talking about an album that's certainly going to bring us plenty of great SEO, but that's not the reason I brought it. It's the album, the latest album by that Korean boy band you heard about, that your sister is into or somebody you know is into. BTS.
My Petey is into it.
Yes. Your PD and your Kaz.
Is that what you're calling it these days?
Kpoppodcast.com. Listen to Hallyu-Juku.
Yes. More on that later. It's BTS, aka 방탄소년단, on their latest album, Love Yourself Tear. Continuation of their previous EP, Love Yourself Her. BTS is an interesting group, to say the least, and like if Kaz and I could tell you that we've had an interesting journey with them over the years, because they debuted in 2013, a little bit before we started our podcast, and they were corny as shit. And they were really corny, really kind of like had this like, they had this hip hop sound, but they were all like, it was this they were trying to do this gangster rap sound about being teens, and it was like, but I think they've matured.
I'm
over
sorry
the
I
years.
missed that. That sounds adorable.
Yes. But they've matured over the years and have grown their success, and they've been a huge thing in Korea for a little while now. And then lately, and I think the biggest reason, just because I wanted to see, have you guys take a look at it, take a look at this group, and take a listen to them. They've kind of broke through in an unprecedented way. Literally, they're the first K-pop artist ever to
break through a wall.
Possibly. But the first K-pop artist ever to debut an album #1 in the U.S. Billboard charts, which is a feat. I think probably a big part of that is the fact that they made it easily available in a form that made it so that it counted for the U.S. Billboard charts, because you could buy it on Amazon, essentially. But also because they have a huge fan base and they've been building this momentum and having this crossover success, appearing on Ellen more than once as a fluke thing. Like they didn't just appear as a fluke thing for an interview. They appeared a couple of times. They've appeared at the Billboard Music Awards for whatever that's worth. And they've appeared on on television here.
I saw them in an LG commercial.
Yes, the LG G7. They have they're selling LG G7s out there. I am a little salty. They dethroned one of my favorite groups, Card, who were the ambassadors for the G6, but I'll let it go. But yeah, let me talk to you guys. Let me talk to you about your expectations. I'll go with Drew first. Drew, what were your expectations coming into this album?
I didn't have much besides knowing it was a group of dudes doing pop music. So I was like, okay, they've probably got some good harmonies, and that's sort of what I knew. I'd heard them in little bits and pieces. Like I said, when we were doing this, my sister actually knew them and couldn't figure out what was going on and asked me if I knew anything about them, because she was like, you listen to weird music? And I was like, yeah, I guess, but like, I don't know why there's girls screaming on Ellen. Like, don't ask me. Like, what am I supposed to do about this? And that was all I sort of knew before going into this, was my sister saying, hey, there's this band and they're everywhere, and now I'm watching them on Ellen and I can barely hear them because all the girls are screaming. So
yeah,
it's New Kids on the Block. It's fine.
I heard they had a bunch of hits. Brett, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, I didn't know. I knew it was. I didn't know originally when you told me who we were listening to. I knew that I was going to be able to find it on Spotify, which was like noteworthy, because let me tell you, hasn't always been easy to find music that Petey brings. Also, it's not BTO. That's Bachman Turner Overdrive. That's something else. But I don't really have.
We need to do one of these days.
You know, I was thinking something
Not
along
opposed.
the same line.
Not opposed.
But like, I don't have my ear to the ground when it comes to music from Asia, R&B, pop music, Asian R&B, Asian pop music, or things that's on that you could find on Ellen or that teenage girls are into. Not really what not my wheelhouse. But
I'm still trying to figure out what your wheelhouse is, Brett.
It's where I drive my boat.
Yes.
I guess that's been, but no, this album is definitely something that I should know. Like, I don't want to be so old that I don't know what goes on in the pages of that very well bound book that Petey has in his hand. Man, they really go all out.
Yeah.
But like, yeah, I had no clue. Like, I've listened to stuff that Petey's brought, but everything that Petey brings is different. It's almost like, you know, everywhere in the world has a large, diverse variety of music. So I was happy to educate myself in this. Eat my vitamins. Try something new.
Yeah.
Dunk this purple piece of celery into some balsamic vinegar.
Yes. Deej, David, what were your expectations coming into this album?
Well, Petey Rave, I would say, as someone who does check out Hallyu-Juku, kpoppodcast.com, and had a little bit of periphery understanding of the juggernaut that is BTS, I was expecting some corny bubblegum K-pop. As you said, Petey Rave, you said that they were very youthful, very, very corny, a little cheesy. So I was expecting some very upbeat K-pop that was very danceable. And I could definitely see this being something that I was probably going to have issues with, because I was expecting something very, very poppy and not in the robotic girl from YouTube kind of way.
Yeah, no. But yeah, this is musically, it's very, very cool. It is, I think there's, you know, draws from influence from a lot of places. Has a lot of hip hop influence. Has a lot of R&B influence. Has a lot of EDM influence. It does bounce around with different sounds, because that's just the nature of like K-pop, is that you have to try a bunch of different genres. It's not a band; it's a bunch of collaborators. As much as the group itself and prides itself, and the company markets them as being highly involved with their music, which they are, they're still, it's them and a bunch of people. So they are
a K-pop machine.
Yes, from not a huge label, which is really cool, because they're not from one of the big three. They're from kind of a smaller label, but it's still a label.
A K-pop machine.
It's still a K-pop machine.
It's a business.
But there's still creativity behind it, and I think that there's a lot of, musically speaking, if we're talking about it, like the themes elements, like there's a lot of like elements of like analyzing things like loss, things like relationships, stuff, things about.
This was a concept album when I was looking this up. They said that this was a concept album.
In loosely speaking, yeah, and then like they had a lot of like cool themes about like that relate to people who are young, like which is like many of the themes involve like, hey, it's okay if you haven't quite figured out your entire life by now. Like, if you're just trying to like find happy moments and you haven't figured it out by now, that's cool. Like, you take your time, or things about, or just
can that apply before you're 35 too?
I'm gonna say if you ask BTS, they'll probably say yes. They've got your back. Or just about lost relationships, or even just about bragging about how awesome they are and how much they've taken over the world. And yeah, musically it's a really nice, fun, diverse, of course, high production value. We marveled about the books. If you want like physical albums, K-pop really understands the idea that I wish wrestling would understand, is that right now in the modern world, physical media is merchandise, not media delivery. It's merchandise. It's a keepsake. It's not content delivery. So this is a keepsake. It's you get a book, you get a thing, and you get to have the album. So it's really cool, and I think that speaks to it. They definitely, there's some fan service, there's some hip hop braggadociousness, there's some nice diversity. But as the least qualified person to speak to things musically, I'll let you guys talk about it. Drew, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the themes, elements?
Well, as I said, sort of my familiarity with this band was in passing with screaming girls in the background. And I sort of get where that's coming from in a weird way now, because if you were to take what like a New Kids on the Block or an NSYNC or a Backstreet Boys did for the sound of the music in that era, and then put a bunch of dudes in with a bunch of different like harmonizing vocals and that bit, but did it with music that's more in the zeitgeist now. This is sort of what you would come up with, except it's not in English. The harmonies overall are really great. The way they layer vocals is really great. The music itself is produced to a high gloss finish. As was alluded to, it's a machine. It makes what it makes, and it makes it well. And that the weird thing to me about this record, and the part that I've had a hard time with, is there is nothing musically wrong with this record. It is modern pop music with that like sort of dance EDM stuff thrown in. There's a little bit of hip hop here and there. But instead of it being a solo artist, it's a boy band. It's well produced and catchy. It's well made. Like, but to me, like, it just is sort of that. It is what to me was sort of weird to me about those type of bands before. It's not that they're making anything that's necessarily bad. It just to me is at times unremarkable, which is sort of weirdly remarkable. It's like, oh, they created one of these, but in a language I don't understand. And like, now that being said, the music is really well done. The music is really well produced. Steve Aoki was on a fucking track, which is fucking weird to me. Like, I did not go into this knowing that Steve Aoki was on a track. Like, and I'll say it later, but that stuff can be some of the more inventive stuff. But yeah, you're going to hear the like chain smokers like soft bit into a swell that's a dancey chorus bit. You're going to hear like that sort of dance music stuff to it. But there's nothing about this that I can say bad. But it's hard to pick out any one thing that made me like stand up and go, oh, this is fucking great.
Yeah.
I don't know.
Brett, how would you describe this album musically? What would be the theme
Like
elements?
if I was distilling this down to its like base ingredients, like that this is a highly
It's all about that
produced, beat driven. I would probably put this as poppy R&B if you're going to sort of loop everything together with a whole slew of different guys belting it out in different manners. Now, there's plenty of hip hop elements in here. Oh boy, is there. There's
Three rappers.
your standard, there's some rapifying going on, and it works. This album goes in a lot of different directions. Like I did not know the seriousness of this album. So I because I don't normally go to sites that translate albums, I went and I read some of the lyrics to some of these songs, and I didn't even believe. I thought somebody was fooling with me. Also, the website was very poorly formatted. There's some interesting things if you dig into the lyrics of these songs.
These guys have a
Go to
lot of
genius.com.
heart. There's a lot of heart in a lot of these lyrics. These guys
was-
are really, really, really earnest.
Yes.
What was that site, Petey? So the other
genius.com.
Okay, because for real, like I found the songs that I dug, and I was like, okay, let's see what they're talking about. I was like, wow, that's not the standard boy band fare. So there's other things. Obviously, this is like I said, it's highly produced, so it's got like that wall of sound feel. Like the dynamics are cranked to the max. It's like it's very bumpy at times. Like it's gonna rattle your license plate and your rearview mirror, and on songs that aren't really like that in your face. It's the difference between the dynamics between the beat and the vocals is so different at some points, and then there's just the straight up you got big voice, big piano song. You've got stuff with some. There's a sproing in this album that I'm going to bring up, but there's all kinds of good
I think
stuff.
we might
in
have the
this
same
album.
sproing.
Yeah, I will. I hope.
Yes. Hopefully. But yeah. David, how would you describe this album musically?
First of all, Petey Rave, wow, I did not expect to hear this much R&B and hip hop influence on this album.
Yeah.
I knew that BTS had a few rappers in their group, but I did not expect to hear so much influence from 90s R&B. That really caught me off guard in a good way. And there was a lot of that spliced all over the album. I know that at times a lot of Korean rappers can be seen as a novelty, but some of these guys were really, really good in terms of lyrical flow,
especially
and
idol
staying
rappers
on-
by real rappers in Korea.
The lyrical flow was solid, the beats were solid, and some of the guys that were doing these lyrics, like Brett said, they were a lot more than I was expecting from what I was originally expecting to be nothing more than one more bouncy,
Back streets back. All right.
super syrupy K-pop album. And this was not that, to my surprise.
No. That's why I don't really. I struggled to call this just a straight up boy band. I can't just out of hand toss it. Oh, it's a boy band. No, there's some shit going on in this album.
Oh yeah,
It really, really is.
Yeah.
like they're following like a boy band archetype, but like there is more to it than just that.
Yeah, there's more to it
For sure.
musically, and there's more to it lyrically. Like and it's from the approach that they and their team have of like there's earnestness. They are honest.
These
about,
guys are earnest AF. They
Yeah.
really mean it.
they're open
Almost
and they
every
speak
world.
openly about things that aren't usually kosher. Like mental health issues and supporting people in the LGBT community and things like that in general, and that's what's really cool about them as people. But yeah, and as we get into some of the songs, it's really cool. Like some of the notable songs, some of the key tracks. Of course, it starts off solid, and it starts off with with like
Yo, Petey.
swaggy hit
The
R&B.
opening song on this album could have been written by Babyface in 1995.
Yes.
Like
And
the opening track.
Oh man, that's a name I haven't heard in a hot minute.
That is
Hot
a
damn.
straight up LaFace Records Atlanta 1995 to 1997 R&B song.
yeah, and it's just V doing his thing, and it is focusing about like relationships. It's some baby making music, and it's like just V lays his voice
There are
out
gonna
there
be
thick.
there are gonna be some Korean babies made to that song.
God, we can only hope so. That birth rate ain't getting higher.
Oh no,
That birth rate ain't gonna fix
Is their
itself.
birth rate down too?
Yeah.
Is their birth rate down too? Oh
Yeah.
Yes.
But yeah, and that transitions really well into the big single "Fake Love." That one has just a nice like presence, and that just grows on you. It's like, so I like on Genius. The description calls it an emo hip hop genre track, combined with genre like grunge rock guitar and a trap beat. It's just like it's really fitting. I think it works really well. It's perfect as a single. It was a fun video, and you know you can hear what we talk. Check out that episode of Halijuku to hear me and Kaz talk about it. But it is just a fantastic track. And then you get into something like The Truth Untold. And nobody here is gonna understand what I'm talking about, but it reminds me of a ballad Big Bang would put out. Like really, I think something in like the way it's saying. I know somebody in there sounded like they were doing the best Taeyang impression that they could, and it makes sense because this is like if you want to say something, if there's one of the giants, because BTS aren't here just on their own. They are standing on the shoulder of giants in K-pop before them, and if one of those giants is Big Bang, who were also people that broke the mold when it came to like boy bands in K-pop. But yeah, it kind of reminds me of that, and it has really strong vocals. And it's a great showcase for them. It just works really well. And then there's 134340, which I'm gonna call it. I don't know if it counts as a sproing, but I'm gonna call it my sproing, which is the disco flute, which is in this album, in this song.
Oh, there's going to be talk of the disco flute, but we have different sproings.
Okay. So this is my sproing, which is the disco flute on this song, which it kind of reminds me of something like an alternative hip hop track in like the 2000s would do, kind of, which is a little bit of the instrumentation. It works well. Like the instrumental works really well, and like it fits the theme. And I like the name, which is probably part of like. Brett's gonna talk about where he mentioned earlier they couldn't believe that it's like the fact that the name is for the asteroid number scientists have used to refer to Pluto ever since it's lost its status as the 9th planet.
I thought they were
space
goofing.
concept album.
I thought they were
This is a
goofing
concept
at me.
album about space.
Yeah.
Does that mean this is Prague?
Yeah, and like I love, and then this is I'm reading off the Genius description. They say that Pluto is also the name of also the Roman name for the Greek deity Hades. Hades' storyline is mentioned throughout the song. So it's like it's basically like a breakup song. It's about losing your official status, but still feeling gravitated towards somebody. And if you want to kind of tie it into that, it works really well.
So would you say that it's like a Facebook It's Complicated, Edie?
Kind of, yeah. And then of course Anpan Man. We gotta talk about Anpan Man, which is a song named after a Japanese kids manga and anime, and just about how we may not be super powered, may not have fancy gadgets and stuff, but hey, I can be your hero. I can be your
I
hero,
can be
baby.
your hero, baby.
I can wipe away your tears. But it's kind of like celebrating the unpowered man. Kind of like a uplifting track. And it's just fun and catchy and easily sing-alongable, even if you don't speak the language. And because the hooks are in English, basically. But yeah, let's go to you guys. Drew, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Fake Love. The chorus being in English was really good. I think that was a choice that was made on purpose. The Truth Untold. Oh hey, Steve Aoki.
Welcome back to the BTS lore.
Yeah, it's like, oh hey, that guy's here. And it's the Truth Untold. I think for me was the one that was like the musically most inventive on the album. It was something that was just like having the Aoki feature on that was just kind of like, oh okay, like this is gonna go some weird places, and I'm okay with that. It's not gonna go like super out of the realm, but. And then Magic Shop, I really picked up on because Magic Shop has that like the thing that I'm talking about. Like Marshmello does it in like 30% of his songs. Like every like dance radio hit has done it. Like that, the weird like effect on the like 2-beat thing. I don't know what to call it besides that thing that all the dance people are doing.
Yeah.
Well, welcome to my nightmare, Drew. We're trying to do the same thing, describing dance. Yeah.
Like, but you know what I'm talking. Everyone knows what I'm talking about. Like if I say the thing that Marshmello does in like 30% of the songs, everybody knows the effect I'm talking about. Like everybody knows the effect I'm talking about. I just don't know what the actual. I need to talk to one of my like audio engineer friends and be like, "Yo, what is this effect?" So that when I talk about it, I don't sound stupid.
The Marshmello effect.
Like it's this weird like reverb with like a delay.
The sproing.
I don't know. It's a thing. And
that's why I came up with the sproing for things that I can't actually describe.
It's cool, but it's like fucking everywhere. And it's like a Wilhelm scream to me now. Like I hear it, I'm like, oh, they want to get people hyped at this part of the song, so they're gonna do that thing that like gets the crowd all like chanting, arm raising. Yeah. Like it's the Wilhelm scream of dance tracks, and it's weird as shit.
Yes. Brett, what would be some of the key tracks for you?
Fake Love, all caps. That way you know you mean it. That song has 69 million plays on Spotify.
Yeah.
Brett, would that qualify as a hot banger?
For this album, it would. For any album that came out in this calendar year to have that many plays, like, this isn't Hulk Rules. This album's fresh, and good.
Certified fresh.
Yeah, certified. So Fake Love has it's obviously it's the one that is overwhelmingly popular on Spotify, at least. And it has a great beat, and even without even knowing a single word that they're saying, it is something that it transcends language. It is a hot banger. The Truth Untold, it's you got to have one of these. It's a big voice and big piano song. You just check that box. They got it, and they did it pretty well. 134340. So the song starts off, and you get in this nice bass groove, and you got some hand percussion going on. You're like, oh, this is awesome. Like it would be noteworthy alone. I'd be like, as soon as I heard that, I'm bringing this up, and then the flute shows up, and oh boy, does the flute show up? Because like there are a few instruments that by themselves are god awfully annoying. Like you just hearing the fucking the mouth noise of a flute by itself, but you put fucking disco groove underneath it, and that flute goes to town. That was some top notch fluting. But the sproing of the album, the sproing in the song Love Maze, at about the 53-second mark, all of a sudden there's like this sample of an accordion that's just playing a bunch of notes. It's almost like, you know, if you just slammed your hand down on a bunch of white keys on a piano. Very, very dissonant. But it wasn't completely dissonant. There was some musicality to it, but the main thing is it pulsates. It comes in and out and in and out, like you stuck a needle in your arm and you rode the white pony. It gives you the ooh-woo. And it's like what a rainbow sounds like. Hey, you ever heard a rainbow? Sounds like that.
Yes.
But yeah, they're every time I listen to this a lot. I listened to it today before I was mowing my yard, like to the groovy tunes. All I can like. Every time you listen through this, you'll hear another thing because they have stuffed so much stuff into these songs.
Yes.
Like you could hide like all kinds of stuff that you like for listens and listens. But yeah, I could sink my teeth into a lot to man, that's some top-notch fluting. Like, not often do you get flutes. like
some high-class flautery.
Yes. Yeah. Deej, what are some of the key tracks for you?
For me, I'll start off with two. The opening track, which is named Intro, Singularity, and Magic Shop. Those are your baby-making songs. The final track, the outro tier, I enjoyed the rap verses from Suga, I believe his name is.
Yep.
Because he kind of sounded like Flint Flossie, and that made me laugh. I appreciated that.
Oh, he's the dude with all the earrings. Yeah.
I introduced my coworkers to the Jeep the other day.
Oh,
nice.
God.
Yes.
Nice. So What? The song So What? This one, if you are not bouncing and jumping up and down to the hook on this song, check your pulse. Because that is an upbeat jump up and down with a whole bunch of screaming children song. Also, the fact that it was so off kilter with the hook and the instrumentation really standing out. Airplane Part 2 really caught my attention just for kind of being a little different from the rest.
Yes. If you're wondering where Airplane Part 1 is, it's on J-Hope's solo mixtape. So I know this because it's on my pre-flight playlist.
Kpoppodcast.com.
Yes. Yes. I think also you'll love how Suga got. I just found out recently how Suga got his name because he's his favorite position to play on basketball is shooting guard. So shooting guard, Suga. It's just fantastic. The fact
gets
that
buckets. He gets buckets.
Exactly.
I mean, he's not probably chopping fat lines on mirrors and. Yes. Like it doesn't seem to be the cultural kind of sugar that you get over there as a pop star.
Yeah, I know.
Also, it wouldn't be Sugar, the guy with the big gun in that movie.
Yeah.
Or he could just say the ladies think he's sweet.
Probably that a little bit as well. Yeah. This is some fantastic tracks. But let's bring it back around the horn to talk about some conclusive thoughts. I'll defer to myself because I get last word. Drew, how would you conclude on this album?
It's an album that like I'm really glad that I've heard now. Like I sort of get the hype a little bit. It's not for me. I don't know if I'm the age bracket for it. But that being said, it's really well produced. It has the elements of a pop album that you want, and it does things that are fun enough to keep you listening. Like I said, it wasn't reinventing the wheel. It wasn't doing anything that like stood out and made me like stand up and go like, oh shit, like this is way different than anything I've heard before. But everything it did really well. So it's something that like, it's one of those things where it's easy like, hey, do you like pop music or like some R&B? Maybe you should check this out. Do you not like those things? Maybe don't bother. But if you do like those things, you'll find some good stuff in these there hills, as it were.
Brett, how would you conclude?
I mean, this is an album that, again, was completely out of my wheelhouse, and I would probably never have heard this album, cover to cover, if it weren't for this show. It's really not my thing. But I understand what people enjoy from this album. It's just that it's not what I am exactly looking for. I didn't dislike the album. This is a good album. It's just a good album that's not necessarily, made for me. But, even though it doesn't hit my normal rotation, I'll probably listen to that flute part every now and then when I remember it. Because I mean, you don't have a flute solo in a pop music when the voice is the solo, the main star of the stage. Like, that flute was stepping on some toes.
Yes.
Like, yeah, let me. You want to sing? Yeah, let me flute.
Yes. The wonderful disco flute. David, how would you conclude?
I feel like this, as a complete album, it really caught me off guard because there was so much here that you really don't hear a lot of in the US anymore. And that's probably why BTS caught on as well as they have here. There was so much R&B that was so well done. There was so much hip hop that was so well done, and the whole package was put together really well as a complete album. However, that's kind of my problem with pop music, and especially K-pop music in general. It feels as though this was focus grouped because it checks all of the boxes of a perfect modern pop album almost too perfectly. The R&B verses the R&B parts are perfectly well composed. The rap verses are good, and there's a balance of Korean and English for people that don't speak the native language. There are solid hooks. There are harmonies. There are high register vocals. Everything about this is extremely well done. However, I could not shake the feeling that this was a product that was made to be sold as a complete package, like Petey's album, and maybe not necessarily a artistic expression. This was a project that was put together by a large number of people with a vision and a goal in mind for a massive success, and not necessarily an expression of someone's internal feelings as a piece of art. And I could not shake that. It is a good, complete album, much better than I expected, much more enjoyable than I expected. There were a few songs on here that I would probably go back to. And it's not just the baby making songs, by the way. But I could not shake the feeling that I know that this is a product of a K-pop machine.
And which is understandable.
I saw Deej and Miss Krabappel in the closet making babies.
Yes.
And then the baby looked at me and winked.
Yes, and thumbed up.
That was fake love, Brett. That was fake love.
Yes. I'm so sorry, but it's fake love. Yeah, I think in conclusion, this is definitely a polished record, and this is definitely a focus, pop record. But there's a lot to really like, and a lot to really dive into musically, and there's a lot of really great ideas here. BTS has grown so much as a group and as a project. They've matured, I think, a lot as artists, though they are still pop artists. And I think it's a nice continuation of that, and it's been cool to kind of see their success. And it's been kind of crazy to see their success. Will it translate to other K-pop groups succeeding? We'll see.
A rising tide and all that.
Yeah, Rising Tide and all that. We'll see. It's still an uphill climb. Will it change anything for Asian Americans in media here in the States? We'll see.
Get Steven Yeun more work.
Yes,
it's great.
But yeah, I think there's a lot to. It's really cool and it's really exciting to see their success. And this is a nice album to put out. A nice. It was the right album to put out to kind of all right, we got this momentum. Let's hit them with this. And it worked out well. And they've got the army. So, which is the fan club for the uninitiated, which. Granted, most of the people watching this are people that got here because, hey, a BTS thing. So y'all know.
KPopPodcast.com. Listen to Hallyu with Petey Rave and the incomparable King Cass.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it is the army is a rabid fan base. And
shout out to Leva Bates.
Yes. Very passionate fan base, and I hope they don't. I hope you're all gentle, please. Please be gentle.
We all liked it. We all liked it. We all didn't really say anything bad.
But yeah. Love Yourself tier. It is a fun album. It is a fantastic album, I think, in what it tries to do, and it works out really well. And musically, I think it just is so solid. And it's so fun. And it hits a lot of the right marks to kind of grow on you, especially if you're into it. And it's a great avenue for people to get into K-pop because it has things that can invite you, and then things that can also introduce you into the greater K-pop fold, because it has those elements, but it also has inviting crossover elements.
Petey Rave, would you say that this is a very good welcome to the machine?
I would say this is a solid welcome to the machine. If you can at least start with this and see if dip your toe in, see if you dig on it, see if, try a couple other albums. Hey, a couple of music videos here and there, and next thing you know, you're subscribed to Hallyu, where you can find it on kpoppodcast.com, aka hallyu.com. But yeah, but enough of my rambling. Let's get down to the main event of the evening, our wonderful haiku reviews, where we wrap it all up in poetic form. Let's get down to it. Drew, what is your haiku?
Really well produced. I can't say very much more. Mathematical.
Yes. That's a fantastic compliment.
I was going to use refrigerator, but then I figured it out.
Mathematical. Brett, what is your haiku?
Voices aplenty. Meticulously crafted. Really popular.
Yes. David, what is your haiku?
I get the appeal. Splashes of R&B, too. A tad too perfect.
Mm-hmm. And of course, my haiku. K-pop's breakthrough stars. Cranking out solid bangers. Keeping army fed. Yeah. Go check out Love Yourself tier on Spotify. It's going to be on our Spotify playlist. Play Record Breakers the home game. Do your due diligence. Or your due diligence.
Yes.
Do your homework. Follow along at home on that Spotify playlist. Will be next week's record. It's going to be provided by David Deej. What do you got for us next week?
Gentlemen, Record Breakers listeners, I have chosen the brand new album from Finnish metal band Amorphis, entitled "The Queen of Time."
I forgot they were a thing.
So look forward to that.
Smooth transition from BTS.
Hey,
perfect. Yeah,
it's gonna be the we had Michael Jackson, Mark Knopfler. Yeah,
Mark Knopfler. This,
yes, all the hot bangers.
All exactly. You should have started with speaking of breakthrough chart-topping smash pop hits.
Amorphous.
We're gonna do Amorphous.
Yes, exactly. But
Don't
look
worry,
forward to-
we'll get it right back around when it's my turn.
Yes,
Just wait.
But look forward to that.
I would love to hear from the BTS army on Amorphous. I would love to hear from you guys.
Yes, if you
Send
are
your
here
emails.
because of BTS, I would love if you stuck around and tried this. Maybe go back to a few of the past albums, follow along on this little book club for music journey. Discover music of different types. I've done other K-pop artists, and this is not the last K-pop artist I'm going to do, but I would also love to expose you to other types of music and the new genres with our various picks. Just maybe skip Glassjaw. You don't need to listen. Actually,
Hey, we skipped Glassjaw.
we skipped Glassjaw. You don't know.
You might not be ready for
Man's not even here to defend himself.
Yeah, Frank Glassjaw. Like,
Yes.
never again am I gonna go shop at his Ace Hardware.
Sorry.
maybe not Danny Brown, because that one does get a little dark.
Yeah.
A little dark.
But
Which
yeah.
is great.
Yes. But of course,
great.
you can find us all over the internet. David is at please call me DJM. Brett is at Hibbity Bibbard, HIBBIBYBIBBRD. Drew is at X Drewcifer X. I'm at PD Rave. This show is at 4 Record Breakers. That's the number 4 Record Breakers. RecordBreakersPodcast.com. RecordBreakersPodcast@gmail.com. Rebelly.net for this and other shows. Rebelly TV on YouTube and other places. You can find us everywhere you find podcasts. Just like, share, subscribe, do all the things, give us feedback. Leave some comments. Let us know what you think of the albums as we listen together. But yeah. Until next time, hasta los huevos.
Toodaloo. I got a bastard file.
I lied about being weird. My posters are upside down.
Be done no more. You meant to know.